We move to the data lake design because after loading the fact table, I have started the data lake design medallion architecture. I think I have asked to complete up to section 14, but they will ask you, do you know what is medallion architecture? Okay, the medallion architecture is basically organizing the data in data lake. Okay, and storing the data in data lake. Probably I need to bring the data lake question little earlier before explaining this one. Anyhow, there is a question for data lake, so we'll see it differently. There are this is little evolution of the big data. Okay, until now we are talking about dimensional data modeling for reporting platform build, and then probably beginning of the 2010 to 2012, that's where Hadoop has been found. Hadoop is one of the distributed data processing engine. All of the technologies that we are talking about it now, including the data lake storage, including the data factory and the data bricks, the underlying server, underlying component is Hadoop. The technologies that we are talking about here is, I would say, Hadoop generation 2 technologies. In Hadoop Gen 1 technologies, we need to do too much of programming using the Java, or Scala, or Python. There are terminologies related to MapReduce and distributed computing and Hive, Impala, Pig. This is all the Hadoop Generation 1 technologies. That is the open source technology. And the each of the cloud providers, okay, they have seen the power of the Hadoop. They have built the very good, easily usable layer. For example, definitely underlying data lake storage account, Hadoop is the one allowing us to do this much data processing very quickly and allowing to store this much data as well into the data lake storage account. It is the same with ADF. By any of the modern technologies that you are talking about it, Databricks uses the one of the advanced versions of the Hadoop called Apache Spark. So Hadoop is the root cause for everything. So when Hadoop came into the big data platform, they were trying to identify the better architecture for storing the data in data analytics platform in big data. Okay, so there are a couple of architectures, Lambda and Kappa architecture. These two architectures Microsoft started to follow initially. I'll give the link of this one. I do not want to go too much about it. I don't think it's the successful architecture. At the moment, the Medallion architecture is the successful architecture and everybody is inhering and adapting to this architecture. This is specifically talking about batch processing and real-time streaming processing. I think it will too much deviate from us. You have a quick read through this specific website. You will come to know. If you got any specific queries on it, you can ask me, because nowadays not everybody is talking about Lambda and Kappa. Probably after 2015, nobody is talking about those architecture. Everybody lying to the Medallion architecture. So the Medallion architecture is very simple and it's very flexible and it can able to adapt into the any type of the project because it's not enforcing any rule at all. You need to have 3 layers in your data lake. Okay, so what is a data lake probably would be the little better question. So when we bringing the data into the data analytical platform, with respect to the reporting layer, we are bringing very specific data that we are going to report on it. Okay, we are not bringing any additional information that don't have any reporting requirement at all. But when come to the data lake, whatever the data available in that business in the source system, they try to bring it. Okay, that is the simplest way of defining the data lake. As we are bringing every data associated to the business into the data analytical platform, you need to have some level of the segregation of the data in your data analytical platform. That's how the Medallion architecture evolved these 3 layers. The raw data we are bringing into the data analytical platform is called bronze layer. The silver layer is, it can be different from project to project. What type of data we will store in silver layer is specifically business driven. Normally what we will do is that we will consolidate our source data, consolidate bronze layer. Okay, we come into the common format. Again I explained with, for example, booking.com, I try to book a hotel from UK, it will show the currency in GBP. The same hotel you try to book it from America, probably it will show in USD, and from India probably it will be in INR. So these three data is related to the same data. It's coming to the branch layer, but before comparing, start to comparing these three data, it need to come to some common currency. Okay, otherwise it will be little difficult to compare where we are getting cheaper hotels. Those type of the things. Those type of the consolidation of the bronze layer is happening in the silver layer. It can be anything starting to converting into the different currencies into flattening the JSON files. That's what we are doing it, because we are getting the associated data of the pricing information in complex JSON structure. We are flattening it in the silver layer, so that before moving to the gold layer, we are making the source data in line with our original pricing data. It can be anything. Again, as I said, the data lake is not enforcing any specific rules what level of the data need to be there in silver layer. It's a completely your business requirement. The gold layer, probably we have got some enforcement saying that there shouldn't be any further transformation of the data. Okay, this data need to be readily available for data science or end user requirements. There shouldn't be any transformation of the data. Apply all business logic and readily available for further use. The further use can be a machine learning, it can be feed into the machine learning algorithms, or even the end users directly can able to find the insights from there. Okay, again we are coming back to data lake. As I said, data lake is without the specific end user requirement, try to bring all of the data and store all of the history of the data also into the data analytical platform. How we will store, again coming back to the Medallion architecture. Okay, and we create the bronze layer and silver layer and gold layer. We are the one, that means the developers are the one deciding what data need to go to the bronze layer. Bronze layer, obviously we are not doing any transformation, just bringing the source data into the data bronze layer. The silver layer and gold layer is driven by us. Okay, there is the new terminology called data lake house. Okay, when coming to the Medallion architecture, we are talking about, okay, these three things we will be seeing again in the data bricks as well. So try to map as much as possible. Okay, when we are defining the Medallion architecture, initially we were storing all of the data in the files. This is not data lake, I think this is the delta table. Sorry guys, this need to come here, because delta lake house is driven by delta table. Only 1 second guys, I made little mess. Okay, so what is a delta table? Before going to the delta lake house, I need to talk about delta table. Okay, so as far as we have learned so far, to store the data, okay, to store the data in database, until now based on our learning, to store the data in database, we need database software. Okay, even though we created the Azure SQL database in the Azure, the backend, there is a database software is running. That is what allowing us to create this database and use it. Okay, without the database server, we couldn't able to create the database tables. Okay, need the database software until the invention of delta lake. Okay, sorry, until the invention of a delta table. Okay, this delta table is open source software again, and found by Linux Foundation. Okay, this is one of the interesting concept came in our time. I am very happy about it. Okay, store the data in files. These files can be anywhere. It can be ADLS or it can be AWS or it can be Google. Wherever you want to store it, you can store it. Even in our local machine, we can store it. Okay. And use the Delta table, Python or Java or Scala libraries. Little theory, okay. We will implement this in the Databricks implementation, so don't worry. Okay, libraries to define the abstraction layer on top of the file. Okay, what this abstraction layer? So we are doing some coding, and probably I can say that store the data in any files, convert the data into Parquet format. There is a one specific format, it's a binary format. You need to convert those files into binary format and use the Delta table. That means this is the code associated to the open source found out libraries to define the abstraction layer on top of this file. This abstraction layer allows us to read the data in files as tables. So indirectly we have invented the new database software with a couple of lines of the code. Okay, there is no installation of the code. So that has been found by this open source software foundation, how it works and how this abstraction layer will be created, all has been found out. We need to use the specific library called import Python Delta library, and this is my source file location. Can I create the table for these files in the abstraction layer? This all the coding, we will write it in the Databricks. And this after creating this abstraction layer, you can run normal SQL on top of the file. Okay, normal SQL on top of the data stored in file. This is not only for select, you can update the record. Okay, update the record and insert the record and delete the record. This is the extremely innovative finding, I would say, actually in our time, because if you need to use the database software, for example, to storing probably 4 terabytes of the data, you will end up paying minimum of $600 per month to use the database software. The same 4 terabytes of the data you are stored in ADLS, probably it will cost 1/10 of the price. Okay, so there's a huge savings in the cost for the business. So everybody is starting to approach this one. It's gone to one further level called Delta Live Table that I will see in Databricks. It's too much advanced going there. So everybody is adapting to this technology. We need to write the code, that is okay, not too bad actually. It's not the way I explained here. Okay, storing in the Parquet file format, probably when we do the coding, actually you read the CSV file, you can directly store it as a Parquet file. It's very straightforward process. You will be writing maximum of 5 to 6 lines of the code to convert this abstraction layer for the Delta table. That's it actually. Okay, after that you don't need to worry about the file system at all. You can start to run your normal SQL scripts to load the data, retrieve the data, join the data, create the new tables, delete the data, everything you can do it via SQL. It is extremely very powerful in my opinion, and everybody is adapting to that one very quickly. So if you build your Delta Lake, okay, without the database, then it's called the data lake. Sorry, you build your data lake without including this Delta table new concept, then it's plainly called as data lake. If you include this Delta table concept in your building data lake, then it's called the data lake house. Okay, because here you don't only store all the data in files, you will store all of the data in files and Delta tables. That means without them, this is a combination of data lake and warehouse. Okay, the data warehouse is the old concept, but they removed the data warehouse. That's how they derived this name. In the data lake, probably you will having only file based storage layer. You need to write the code to retrieve and update and delete or insert the data. The data lake house, You will have files as well as the delta tables. You can use the complete SQL functionality in the delta lake house. That is the differentiation between data lake and data lake house. There are too many terms looking very similar. The data lake is the alternative way of designing the data analytical platform, bringing all of the data available into the analytical platform and define the final usage after bringing the data into the data lake. Now the delta table is not directly related to the data lake. Delta table is one of the mechanism, it's related to the coding mechanism. It will create the tabular abstract layer for your files stored in the normal data lake storage account. If you use this delta table in defining your data lake, then it's called the data lake house. Databricks mainly will say that data lake house. Okay, so as because of the including the SQL functionality, the data lake house supports modern machine learning type of the requirement along with traditional reporting requirement as well. All of the reporting loads that we have done so far using the ADF can be done in data lake house using the SQL scripts. Here now we have written ADF pipelines. You can write the SQL scripts. You can be able to create the similar fact table and dimension tables as well. So those type of the things that we need to aware on data lake design. It's mostly terminologies. I don't think they can able to ask anything on how to define bronze or silver or gold layer comparing to dimension table and fact table differentiation. But probably they will ask what is the delta lake house, what is the delta table, what is the data lake, and what all are the different layers in the data lake, and what is the architecture you followed in your project. That level of questions is possible in data lake design.